What's going on, everybody? PojiForce here. You're watching PojiForce Plays. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil. The one thing that I've noticed among the Dead by Daylight community, particularly from big name streamers and YouTubers, is that not a lot of them actually have a lot of experience with the Resident Evil franchise. And I feel like as someone who's played a lot of Resident Evil games over the years, I'm uniquely qualified to point out interesting little Easter eggs and secrets hidden in the RPD map of Dead by Daylight that relate back to the Raccoon Police Department in Resident Evil 2 Remake and the entire Resident Evil franchise as a whole. There's a lot of cool little things hidden here, and we're just going to hop right in, and I'm going to start showing you all these neat little things that I've noticed, starting with some pretty obvious ones and then getting to some of the more discreet ones, and then finishing off with one particular one that I think is really interesting and a lot of people probably haven't noticed. So to start off, here in the Grand Hall, there's the pretty obvious one where there is the power box for the shutter gate on the western side of the room on the lower level. This power box is basically where the game really starts to take off in Resident Evil 2 Remake, where Leon is given, or Claire is given, a knife by Marvin Branagh, and you use the knife to open the power box and really start digging into the RPD. And that box is present in both Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil 2, of course. The next one, as you start exploring through the RPD in Resident Evil 2, is that you'll find many windows where zombies can break through and enter the building. And you want to prevent that from happening so you can minimize the amount of bullets you have to spend just surviving. So how the game does this is that there are like piles of boards that you can pick up and nail over windows in order to prevent the zombies from getting in. And these boards have nails in them. And these same boards are present in Dead by Daylight's version of the RPD, even with a little zombie beating against the windows in certain areas. Now, one of the most iconic scenes from the Resident Evil 2 Remake is when Leon stumbles upon the corpse of two police officers who were brutally murdered by a licker, one of which whose head is sliced wide open, and the other is impaled on a pipe from the overhead.
Huh? What?
While the cop that's laying on the ground with his head sliced open isn't present in Dead by Daylight, the cop that was unfortunate enough to find himself hanging from a pipe is still very much there. Now, this next one I think is kind of cool because it relates to a specific puzzle in Resident Evil 2, but it's also present in Dead by Daylight. So even though the puzzle isn't there, it's referring to something that exists in the other game. In the western end of the first floor of the RPD, there is a room between the records room and the conference room. And it doesn't have a name in RE2, but in this room there is a whiteboard with a passcode written on it. That passcode gets you into a locker in the men's locker room on the second floor. This whiteboard is also present in Dead by Daylight. Now, the whiteboard isn't the only puzzle that the Dead by Daylight map references. In fact, there are the two safes, the one on the west end and one on the east end, that are puzzles in Resident Evil 2, but are still present in Dead by Daylight, though they have been overrun a bit by the entity. Now, this next one isn't so much an Easter egg so much as an interesting thing that I've noticed, and that's at the STARS office on the second floor, west end. When you enter the STARS office, the big office immediately to your left is the office of Albert Wesker, who is a renowned antagonist in the Resident Evil franchise. While he is probably best known for his appearances in Resident Evil 5, he started out as the captain of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service. In other words, he was Chris and Jill's boss, though even at the time, he was secretly working for Umbrella Corporation. Now, in Dead by Daylight, his office seems to serve a different purpose. Now, from my experience, if you look behind Wesker's desk, there is quite often a totem here. This is a pretty common totem spawn. So if you find yourself on the RPD map in Dead by Daylight and you're hunting for totems, this might be a good place to look. This next one takes place in the conference room on the west side of the map. The first time you arrive here in Resident Evil 2, you can find the map for the first floor of the RPD. This map is also present on a bulletin board in this same room in Dead by Daylight. But on this bulletin board, there's also a little bit of extra secrets. You may notice on the board that there is also a phone number for Jill's Sandwiches. Jill's Sandwiches is of course a reference to the infamous line from Resident Evil 1 where Barry Burton says,
"That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich."
You're right.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
Really? Thanks.
The phone number itself is also relevant because the first part of the phone number is a reference to a community challenge held for Resident Evil Revelations 2, and the second part of the phone number is the year in which the first Resident Evil game was released. The next one is a reference to specifically Claire's side of the story. In the trophy room off of Chief Brian Irons' office, there is a little gated room with a telephone in it. This room is where you receive a phone call from the chief threatening to kill Sherry Birkin unless you bring him her pendant. This room is still present in the Dead by Daylight version of the police department.
Chief Irons, you freak!
Alright, so we're getting close to the end here, and this one is a very big one, but I think it's really, really cool, and a lot of people may not have noticed. So you'll have to pay close attention for this one. So in Resident Evil, there are areas that are known as safe rooms. These are rooms where typically zombies or other monsters will not spawn or appear. They won't chase you into these rooms, they'll stay outside. And this is also where you can access your item boxes and the typewriter to save your game. Now, while it may not be very noticeable in Resident Evil 2 Remake because of how they've changed the sound design, there is an option in the game to go back to the classic sound design. With the classic sound design, you may notice that when you enter a safe room, there is a notable change in the tone of the music. This is common in a lot of the old Resident Evil games, from Resident Evil 0 to 1, 2, 3. And even as recently as Resident Evil 7, and Resident Evil 8.
Aha! Aha!
Now, interestingly enough, Dead by Daylight has the same mechanic. As long as there is no terror radius or you're not in a chase and you're not hearing the heartbeat, if you enter a room that is traditionally a safe room in Resident Evil 2, then the ambient music of the game will change. And this occurs in all the different areas where there is a safe room, both in the break room on the east side, as well as Captain Brian Irons' office on the east side. And then you also have the photo room on the west side. Now, there is technically a safe room in the Grand Hall, but the Grand Hall, once you reach a certain point in the game, is very much not a safe place anymore. And understandably, in Dead by Daylight, that room no longer has safe room music. But all four of these areas do have typewriters, just like the safe rooms do. So that's everything that I've found. This map honestly probably is packed full of other references and clues, all sorts of different things from the Resident Evil franchise. But these are the ones that I found. If you guys know of any other cool Easter eggs and hidden secrets like this in RPD, post it in the comments below. But that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. You all are amazing. Until next time, everyone, I am PojiForce, and you all stay awesome. Catch you later.